Okay, welcome to your very first lecture in HDFS 402. What is a family, or what is family? And the goal of this lecture is just to help us think about family in a broad way. A term that we will use in this class is the SNAF, which stands for the Standard North American Family. This was coined by Smith in 1993, and it means that a SNAF is a family with two parents, a heterosexual couple, likely the same race or ethnicity, who have biological kids. And if we go further, the mom is more responsible for childcare and the dad is more responsible for breadwinning. So our goal in this class is to try not to think of the SNAF when we hear the word family, right? We want to go beyond that. For some of us who maybe grew up in a SNAF or live in one now, it's easy to default to that. Others, who maybe grew up with non-SNAF families, can think of family in a broader or more diverse way. So we're all going to be challenging ourselves to think of family in a more diverse way than the SNAF. But we can still talk about the influence of the SNAF, on our thinking around family. Definitely in the last several decades, the field of family studies has really challenged itself to move beyond the SNAF. So I'd love for you to just pause and reflect on how your family or other families that you know are different from SNAF families, and how being different than a SNAF has maybe created any challenges or awkward moments where you've made assumptions about someone else's family or they've made assumptions about yours. So since 1960, we've seen a ginormous increase in the number of people living alone, from just 5% in 1960 to nearly 30% in 2023. These can be younger people who are, for example, not married, don't have kids. These can be people who are middle-aged, who are divorced, and the kids have left the home. These can be older adults whose partners have died. But we also know that some of this is due to young 20-somethings waiting to get married, right? So then basically young people, emerging adults and young adults, have added another phase where they leave the home of their family of origin, but they're waiting to create a multi-person household, essentially. And so that can be one of the reasons why we're seeing this. It's not that people are permanently living alone, but more people are at least temporarily living alone. But this leads us to this question about, where do single people fit in the field of family studies, or when we talk about families? And some people have asked, why don't we call it why don't we have single studies, right? Or why don't we include single people more when we're having family studies classes or research? So the purpose of this slide is to help us think about single adults when we are thinking about the field of family studies. So before you get to the next slide, ask yourself, do you think that single child-free adults are more or less helpful to family, friends, neighbors compared to married adults or parents? Single individuals are basically ignored when it comes to discussing family issues, especially if they don't have children. Work-family issues are thought to be kind of irrelevant to them, and single adults and unmarried adults are typically portrayed as basically unencumbered by family obligations, or maybe even self-centered individuals who don't help out in the way that married or partnered individuals or parents do. But research reveals actually a different story. Unmarried adults talk on the phone more to their parents and siblings compared to married adults, and this is especially true for men. Unmarried adults help their parents and siblings more, such as caring for their nieces and nephews. Unmarried adults account for 30% of grandparents, helping to support their grandchildren. They also tend to have more friends and they help them more, and they also visit their neighbors and help them more. So again, it's important to kind of challenge maybe some unconscious assumptions that we might have about single adults. I like this short optional film for a couple of reasons. One is it reminds us about the diversity of families and to not make assumptions, to not say to a child, hey, do you want to make this card for your mom for Mother's Day? Or to assume that when parents are there for pickup that the people with the same skin tone, go together. And it also shows us what it's like to teach kids about family diversity and give them empowering language, because as we all know, if we are different in any way from the majority culture, having language to be able to explain ourselves or our families in a really matter-of-fact, normalizing way is very empowering. And I would say that those of us taking classes like this, even though it's hard to come up with, educate kids or come up with language for kids, we're the ones who should be able to figure it out.